These three quote unquote healthy foods might be holding you back from getting ripped, and they might be keeping you stuck in terms of you carrying more body fat than you want to be, right? Most people have no idea. Let's get straight into what these three foods are. So you may feel like you're eating clean, right? But you're stuck and you plateau with your fat loss, for example, right? And this is a common trap. And the reason for this is there's certain foods which we deem to be healthy, but in reality, they're very calorie dense and they're holding us back from really getting to the next level. And if you want to get shredded, you can forget about, right? These foods will definitely hold you back, no doubt. So, number one is good old granola, right? Now, the problem with granola is they have a lot of hidden sugars, right? It's very hard with portion size. If you look at calorie density, right? People will add some granola or whatever to their yogurt or whatever, and you're literally having a few mouthfuls and having hundreds of calories. Now, the problem is you buy granola, you keep it in the house as well, right? And you're gonna eat what's there and you're gonna keep eating it till it's gone. And there's other swaps that you could implement as opposed to this, right? And when you look at calorie density as well, like I said before, how fast you eat these foods make a massive difference to how satiated you are, right? So granola, literally a couple of tablespoons, boom, hundreds of calories, maybe like 4 tablespoons. That's probably a couple of hundred calories, right? And you've just chomped that down within a minute or two max, right? And again, it's a ultra processed foods. Now, can you get some granolas which are not technically UPF? Yes, they're quite hard to find. But even when you do, they still design those foods for what? Taste, purely for high palatability, right? In terms of how they taste, the texture, the sugar, the perfect ratio of sugar and fats. And I would never have things like granola. If I'm looking to get shredded, there's not a way in a million years I'm keeping granola in the diet because I know I'm just going to eat extra calories I simply do not need, right? So you want to cut that out if you're looking to get ripped. Let's say you're looking to lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or just get next level shredded. Now, when I say cut it out in an ideal world, okay, have you had a few tablespoons on the weekend, for example? Fantastic. You went and ate out at a cafe every now and then. You had a little bit. Okay. But you keep that in the house, you're setting yourself up to fail with your fat loss goals. Right now, what can we swap it with? What I would say is ideally, you always want to eat what you would eat for dinner for breakfast. This is what I say to clients, right? In an ideal world, right? When you can, if you can keep leftovers from dinner from the night before, if you can eat the champion's breakfast of steak and eggs, for example, right? That is always going to deliver for loads of reasons I've talked about before. Or just having, like I say, like leftover beef mince, maybe even if you eat vegetables, leftover vegetables from the night before, beef. What you would eat for dinner, eat that for breakfast. And it's very hard to go wrong because then you are eating a complete meal, which is loaded full of healthy proteins, essential proteins, essential fats, minerals, and also you're going to have some fiber there if you've got the vegetables in, which are obviously going to keep you satiated for long periods. But let's be realistic. Most of you are not going to eat that for breakfast. So what can you swap the granola with or the cereals or the UPF with, right? Oats. Now, what I would recommend is steel cut oats. Normal oats are going to contain an anti-nutrient called phytates, which strip the nutrients out of your body. And research shows 80% of people are going to get issues eating normal oats. So steel cut oats are not going to have the anti-nutrients. You can get them in most health stores now. Yes, a little bit more pricey. Steel cut oats, for example, with some whey protein powder. When you get your whey protein, again, I'm all about minimizing UPF, ultra processed foods. Most protein powders are UPF. They're loaded with artificial sweeteners. They're loaded with coloring dyes, additives. And again, they're just designed purely for flavor, right? So whey protein, add in with the oats and keep that whey good quality ideally. Like the one I have has 3 ingredients in it. Grass-fed whey protein, vanilla, natural vanilla, not like extract. This is proper vanilla bean. And also one more thing, which is kind of slipped my mind. Oh, stevia. It's got stevia plant though. It's not extract, right? So mixing that, for example, oats, whey. You could even do overnight oats, right? Which we have some recipes which I use with clients. Add some berries to that as well. And cinnamon as well, right? Cinnamon is very underrated. It gives you like that natural sweetness with no spike in blood sugar levels generally, right? And there's some research to show it can, improve fasting blood sugar glucose levels and insulin sensitivity. But that's all like, there's loads of variants for that. But cinnamon is great because it kind of tricks your brain into thinking it's getting sugar without the calories, right? Dry, fresh cinnamon. So adding that, I like adding that sometimes to like my yogurt and stuff. So you can either switch the granola or the cereals for oats with some whey protein, some berries, right? For example, some cinnamon, boom, tastes great. Another thing you could do is you could switch it for a yogurt, right? Like a low fat. Now, this is the thing, right? You know, I'm all about whole foods, right? So when I say get milk and get yogurt, for the most part, you want to be getting normal whole, not low fat. Most low fat foods are going to be UPF. That being said, with clients, right, depending on how many calories it can get away with, most people are not like me. They can't eat the amount of calories I can eat. And even now, I'm doing a little mini cut as an experiment, right? In terms of cutting fat. And I've cut out that, obviously, I won't have low fat. So I've just cut the yogurt out this week. And I've just been having, I'll explain that at the end anyway, give you some a little summary on that anyway. But yeah, low fat yogurt, I would recommend for the purpose of you looking to lose weight. Now, if you're having low fat products every single day, I'm looking at patterns. If you're having low fat, like there's a good brand actually in America. I know most of you in America, it's called Fage, Fage, the 0% one. That's one of the cleanest ones. It's like something like 80 calories per 150 grams and 16 grams of protein, right? So if you have that, you could even add, if you've got some good quality whey protein, mix that in with it. Tastes delicious, right? Mix that in with it. Again, you could add some berries, some cinnamon. You know, you could even add some other fruit as well, because remember, when it comes to blood sugar levels and eating things like fruit, it makes all the difference. Even a little bit of honey, right? It makes all the difference in terms of what you eat it with. So if you're having it with something like protein, for example, some yogurt, it's going to give you more of a steady release of insulin, right? And it's not going to spike your blood sugar levels anywhere near as much as if you had fruit or honey on its own with no protein and no fats or anything to help you metabolize it and balance out those blood sugar levels, right? So there's some good healthy swaps there for granola. Very simple. You know, you could even have a shake as well. But the thing is with a shake, I'm a big fan of actually eating your meal and chewing it. Remember, a huge part of the digestion process is chewing your food, right? That is a huge part of it. And again, it's going to slow down the what? The time it takes to get into your body, and chewing is going to slow down your rate of digestion, which then means you're going to be more satiated, right? So yeah, and obviously in an ideal world, yeah, if you can eat, like I say, with me, obviously I'll fast in the mornings, right? So I don't eat until about midday. At the moment, I'm having 2 meals a day. I've gone back to that. But I don't recommend that. I know a lot of you listening are, you know, probably you've tried intermittent fasting or fasting, or you found me through the carnivore space or whatever. And I don't recommend that for most people, right? I don't recommend most people skip breakfast, because most people, they don't eat at least 90% real food. And they are high stressed. When you're high stressed and your cortisol levels are through the roof in the morning, right? And you're skipping breakfast, then a lot of times people get ravenous by the time they get to lunch. Okay, they'll eat a lunch, and then they get to the evening, they've had a deficit of calories, and it's likely they're going to overeat. Some people are good and they eat in the smaller window. It works for them. They lose weight. But then I'm always looking at what are the patterns on the weekends as well, right? On the weekends, a lot of people who fast, what they tend to do is they tend to drop their guard on the weekends. Don't get me wrong. It's not about being strict all the time, but people drop the ball too much on the weekends. People who tend to skip meals. I'm not a big fan of skipping meals for most people, because it's going to make you slip up, right? And there's some research to show eating between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., that window, it can help benefit cortisol levels, dropping cortisol levels in the evening, and it can help with circadian rhythm and sleep as well. So eating earlier in the day, right? But look, everyone's different. I don't want you to try and make too many changes at once or get overwhelmed, but there's some healthy swaps there. So granola, long story short, it's an ultra processed foods. It's very energy dense, right? You're going to eat a lot of calories per minute. Remember, research shows UPF, you're going to eat something like 17 calories more per minute than what you would with whole foods, because those foods, they're only designed for flavor. They might pose to be health products, but they are not healthy. They are ultra processed foods, and most of them have loads of additives in them and stuff which plays with your gut flora, which I'll get to next, right? So granola is number one. The next thing is protein bars, right? Which are basically just glorified candy bars, right? They're just disguised as ultra processed foods. And in fact, most protein bars actually have more chemicals, more nasties in them than chocolate bars. Most of the time, you're better off having, like, literally chocolate bars, because protein is not a magical macronutrient, right? This is another marketing play that they have, right? Where they put protein on everything. I don't know if you noticed that in the supermarkets. You see it: protein bread, protein this, protein that. Protein is not a magical macronutrient, right? Just because it's got the word protein on it, it doesn't make it healthy. It's a trick, right? If you look at protein bars, most of them literally have an ingredient. I counted the other day, it was something like, I'm sure it was like 50 ingredients in one of them, right? And there was a woman in the supermarket, she literally ate it on the aisle. She was eating it. In her words, she said, "Oh man, this is divine." She was eating it like someone who's addicted. Right? Not that I'm judging, right? Sounds like I am, but she was eating it. I eavesdropped, right? And she was like, "Oh my God, it's divine," right? She didn't even think about even making it to the checkout with this protein bar, right? And that tells me what? These foods are addictive, right? And I don't really care. Like some of my clients, they'll have some protein bars here and there. Don't get me wrong. And there's some which are better than others. Most of them are garbage, by the way. There's one brand I'm not going to shout this brand out, but there's one brand that my clients use when they have some here and there. And it's like 5 ingredients, right? But still, you've got to look at the behavior behind this, right? Why are protein bars going to keep you fat or keep you overweight? Number one, it's a UPF, right? Which is designed to make you overeat. 2, it's got artificial sweeteners in it, right? Now, sucralose, for example, and some other artificial sweeteners such as Ka sulfame, which are like hundreds of times sweeter than sugar. There's research to show that sucralose, for example, kills the good bugs in your gut, right? And has so what it does as well, especially artificial sweeteners, it tricks you, not like cinnamon. Cinnamon might trick your brain into thinking it's getting sugar, but instead of actually stimulating appetite, generally, it's not going to do that, right? Like I said, research shows it actually can do a bit of the opposite, right? It can balance out blood sugar levels a bit. Whereas sucralose and artificial sweeteners, which are chemically enhanced, right? They basically are going to have an impact. They're going to trick your brain. Like if you have, so even a Diet Coke, for example, right, which has got the other one in there, which is Ka sulfame. They're the 3 I just mentioned there. There's some others as well, but Ka sulfame, you've got sucralose, and you've also got aspartame. Sorry, that's the one that they find in Diet Coke. It tricks your brain into thinking it's getting sugar, and then you don't get any calories or energy, right? So what it does is it kills the good bugs in your gut, right? There's research on this now. And essentially it's going to make you want to eat more. And it's very addictive. I noticed this myself, right? I went through a little phase. I think it was like last year where I was eating, I'm not going to mention the company, right? As this podcast grows, I'm not doing it. I was eating this one bar and I found I had one, and then the next day I wanted another one. And then what I found then is I wanted 2, right? They're designed to get you addicted. They're only designed to sell product, right? It's no different to any other UPF. In fact, I would argue it's worse because it tricks you into thinking, right, I'm having that protein, so I'm going to get closer to my protein target. So great, I can eat them all the time. No, you've got to look at the ripple effect and the invisible stuff that's going on that you can't see. Like I say, gut flora, also hidden stress and inflammation, right? From some of these quote unquote health foods, because the artificial sweeteners, also the emulsifiers as well, the additives. Now, when you look at additives like soy lecithin, like they add to it, they add one called polysorbate 80. There's loads of different ones. There's more research to show that it actually damages the gut lining, right? And really disrupts your microbiome, right? So there's a lot more going on than what you see. So going back to why they're going to keep you stuck if you're having protein bars regular, it comes down to as well, another big thing with this as well. You look at the size of a protein bar, right? And the energy density. Let's say it's that big, right? 200 calories, right? Give or take. I'm doing a protein bar in 2 or 3 bites. I'm quite greedy, right? But I'm doing it in 2-3 bites. I'm putting that away in under a minute most of the time, right? You got to look at the speed of these foods and the texture, right? They're just designed to be highly palatable, right? So what I see is patterns with people eating protein bars all the time. And like I used to get sponsored by a company in my bodybuilding days. I'd have a box in my house. I would put away 3 or 4 of them a day, right? So look, what I would say with that, I'm going to give you some healthy swaps and stuff now, right? We've got to really be mindful of all the chemicals that you see. Just have a look at the ingredient list next time you have a protein bar. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to be the fun police here, right? I'm not trying to be unrealistic. Every now and then, you're probably going to eat these foods. Let's be realistic, right? But if you find yourself a pattern and you're having them most days, you're going to be in trouble. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to get to your fat loss goals, right? Because these foods are designed for taste, and it's a behavior. So what you're doing is you're cementing in poor behaviors with food when you're eating those things all the time, right? Because you're going purely for what? Flavor. Don't lie to yourself and say you're eating them for health. Stop doing that, right? Anyone who is, because you're not. Stop saying, okay, yeah, but no, you're only eating it for flavor, which is okay every now and then, right? But just be honest with yourself with that, right? So what can you do to switch like a healthy swap for that? Very simple, right? Well, protein bar, what's that? 20 grams in a protein bar, right? 20 grams of protein. Eggs, 3 eggs, 18 grams, 4 eggs. You're going to top that with protein. And then you're also going to get in loads of essential nutrients and minerals and vitamins, right? As well in eggs. You all know that anyway. Again, I want to bring it back to yogurt as well. Like I would say a better swap is going to be, a lot of you are going to hate me for saying this, right? But if you're someone who's looking to lose weight, again, go back to the yogurt. And I would go back for the purpose of fat loss, providing you're not eating this every day and you don't find yourself having low fat yogurt. Again, look at the ripple effect of these behaviors. If you're having low fat yogurt like the Fage one, Fage, it's pronounced. I'm going to shout them out because I think it's a decent quality. They sell them in America. 0%. Let's say you're having that and you find yourself reaching for a more artificial stuff, right? There's not much artificial in those ones. It's just low fat. The only thing is low fat milk, right? It's just being stripped. But other than that, there's nothing added to it, to my memory, to that one, for example. But if you find yourself swapping the protein bar, having some yogurt with whey protein, for example, right? Or even if you had 300 grams of yogurt, for example, right? Then you're going to get in around about 30, you're going to get in like 10 grams more than you would in the protein bar anyway, just by having, 300 grams of just that low fat yogurt, for example, right? If you can get away with more calories like me, I'm not going to eat low fat, right? Because obviously I want it to be whole. That's, I'm not perfect, but I want it to be whole most of the time. So I'm going to, if I have it like I probably will on the weekend, I'm going to get whole yogurt, right? I'm not going to get low fat. But for the purpose of losing weight, it can be a really, really good tool, right? So if you find yourself then getting caught up in other behaviors where you're having low fat this, low fat that, and you find yourself going, but sugar-free that. Before you know it, you're having 4 Diet Cokes a day, right? Yes, there's no calories in them, but I've already explained why it's not ideal. And you find yourself getting stuck into those poor habits, then that's a different story, right? But most of the time, having a bit of low-fat yogurt as a replacement is going to be way better than a protein bar. Mixing some whey protein, boom, it's going to keep you satiated, right? Some other swaps for that, for example, could be like jerky, for example, right? That's the ultimate snack. If you can get, grass-fed, good quality beef jerky, you're going to get your sodium in there, a nice bit of salt, right? Because a lot of the times people actually want salt or sodium. That's what they need. And they trick themselves into thinking they want in sugar. Or most of the time when people are searching for snacks, it's emotional most of the time anyway. So a lot of people mistake hunger for thirst. Loads of this is a big common problem, right? So you could be doing this. If you find yourself wanting to have snacks all the time, then number one, you're probably not having complete meals and like proper complete meals and getting enough protein, fats, minerals into those meals, probably. Number two, you're simply probably not just not having enough water, right? And you're not hydrated, and then you're reaching for snacks. Or number three, it's gonna be just purely emotional, right? It's gonna be boredom. It's gonna be, whatever it is, boredom, stress, all those kind of things, right? So you got to break that down in terms of why you're snacking. But a good healthy snack, if you're on the move, obviously beef jerky. Now, what I would like to say is, in this world we live in, you can guess it, right? Most beef jerkies are UPF, right? They've got one here, right, which they sell loads of product, and it's got maltodextrin in it, right? Which is basically one of the worst things you can put into your body. But there's other ones here, which are really expensive, by the way, where you can get like organic, right? You can get proper grass-fed, good quality beef jerky. As I say, it's not cheap, but it's a great swap for, a protein bar. And yeah, like for me personally, I would even though it's low in protein, right? I would prefer just to have a little bit of dark chocolate, like 90%, because what I find for me is, yes, it's energy and calorie dense, but as long as you're hitting your protein target for the day, if you do want a snack, like I would say more like 90%, a small amount of like dark chocolate, because it has a bit of stimulation in there as well. It has whatever it's called, that stimulant in there, which is similar to caffeine. That's personally what I would do as well. I know it hasn't got any protein in it, but in the purpose of getting protein, as I say, eggs, good quality fat, low fat yogurt. If you're going to get the low fat, look at the ingredients though, right? If it's got chemicals in there you can't pronounce, or emulsifier, or soy lecithin, or any of these words which deep down, right, they're chemicals, then air with caution. And yeah, that's what I would say, really. So protein bars, they're the biggest marketing load of BS that I've seen out there, most of them. And I would recommend, if you're looking to get lean and stay lean and get shredded, I would avoid them, or just keep them in every now and then as almost like a little kind of, I don't know, like a treat or whatever, right? The next one, all right, my good old friend, peanut butter, all right? This one is going to keep you fat, right? Simple as that. Even me, I can get away with 3,500 calories, right? That's my, well, maintenance, I can actually get away with more than that. Maintenance calories are about 3,009 right now. And if I mean, I've cut peanut butter out, right? So I've got some there, right? And I might have some here and there, right? And I'm aware as well. I know, all you carnivore people out there listening now, you're like, oh my God, all the anti-nutrients, right? Like the phytates and the lectins and oxalates. Yes, this is true. But the reality is there's no research to show if you feel good eating those things, it's not going to kill you every now and then. I think people take things way too far and they eat carnivore for a few months and they follow the carnivore space. I'm not against it, by the way. If it's working for you, I'm all for it, my friend. Don't think I'm looking down on whatever's working for you. But don't get too caught up into that kind of dogmatic way of looking at things. Oh, anti-nutrients, they're going to kill you. I had a carnivore person message me saying, I was eating dark chocolate once. They said, you're going to get kidney stones. You know what I mean? It's like, really? Because of the oxalates? Like, really? You're actually saying that right now? Is that really true? I mean, yes, you've got to still be aware, but yeah, okay, so you're going to get some of those things in peanut butter. But when it comes back to fat loss, a tablespoon, for example, most people, when they have a tablespoon, it's not a tablespoon, it's a fucking shovel, right? If we're honest, right? It's a shovel of peanut butter. And even in like a small tablespoon, right? Without it being heaped, like when most people have a tablespoon, right? It's a mountain of peanut butter. Even in that, let's just say that's at least 100 calories, right? That's 100 calories you can put away, swallow it, done, finished. You can add it to your oats and your yogurt. I'm not saying it doesn't taste great. I love it, right? But I'm going to keep that every now and then right now because right now I'm in your mind and I haven't really done a cut for it. I don't do cuts and stuff, right? I'm lean all year round, but I'm doing it now not because of I really want to lose fat and look better. It's more just a challenge, right? Because it is challenging, right? Being in a deficit. And I am not going to eat the peanut butter because I will put away at least 600, and I'm greedy. Like I said, I'll hold my hands up, right? The old behaviors that I have, I want to be clear here, the all or nothing, right? And the behaviors of self-destruction and self-sabotage with food, I don't think you ever lose them. I don't think they go away altogether. I think you just have a strategy and you eat more whole foods and you have less desire to eat those foods. But I'll justify it, right? Because it's what? It's one ingredient, right? I have peanut butter. I have 600 calories worth of peanut butter, right? Which let's just say it's 100 grams is a lot, 600 calories, right? And boom, I've just basically canceled out my deficit doing that, right? Now, if I do that strategically and I stay in a deficit all week and I go, right, I'm going to have 500 calories in peanut butter and stay in yeah, that's a different story, right? That's banking up your calories. That's planning ahead. But most people are not doing that, right? It's very energy dense and it's simple, right? You can have a day in a deficit, right? You've smashed it, right? You're in a deficit, boom. Got peanut butter in the house, right? You know what? I'm in a deficit. Things are going well. I can have a bit of yogurt and whey protein. I'm going to add a tablespoon of the peanut butter in there, right? Or a little bit. Let's say you had like 100 calories and you factored that in advance and you still stayed in a deficit. Boom, you've nailed it, right? But if you're doing that every single day, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of 100 grams of peanut butter, right? If you're doing that and you're hitting your protein target, you stay in a deficit, right? And you're winning, great. Some people do it. Most people it's going to hold you back, right? So very simple. Not to mention, it's addictive, right? And especially like forget about it. When you add peanut butter, even if you justify having it, I'm not saying it's bad. I don't want to demonize these foods either, right? They're okay in moderation. But the thing is, when you buy peanut butter, where do you keep it? In the house, right? So it's much easier to avoid temptation, right, than it is to resist it, first and foremost. But number two, when you mix it with sugar, right, you mix that with like honey or even fruit, like banana, for example, right, it tastes so good. And again, it's that combination of fat and sugar, right? So yes, it's better than UPF, right, having fruit and a bit of peanut butter. But when it comes to your goal and actually calorie consumption, if you consume too much when you're eating it, then obviously it's going to hold you back. And people always say things like protein as well. Oh, having peanut butter, I'm getting my protein in. What a load of bullshit that is, right? When you look at the protein to fat ratio and the protein to calorie ratio, it's atrocious, right? If you had a tablespoon of it, let's just say that's 100 calories. What is that in protein? Like 4 grams or something? It's like nothing at all. Like it's the most ridiculous argument ever when I hear people having peanut butter to get their protein in, right? They're just lying to themselves. Let's be straight here. So they're the 3 foods, right? It's granola, it's protein bars, and it's peanut butter, right? They are going to hold you back and they're marketed as being healthy, right? Yeah, you're going to get your protein up a little bit, but it's going to hold most people back, right? So, and just to give you a little kind of summary here as well, and just some knowledge bombs in terms of you getting leaner and being able to stay lean. For example, what I've been doing this week, yeah, I've got peanut butter here. I'm not having any of that, right, in the week. I'm not having the full fat yogurt because I called myself out on the podcast the other day, right? So haven't had that for like 3 days with the whey protein. That was just added calories I didn't need. So what have I been doing? I've just been having my usual first meal of meat, avocado, eggs. That works for me, right? It's low in carbs, but not just because it's low in carbs. It's a complete meal, right? It keeps me satiated. I have that, and then boom, in the evening, I've been having a little bit more meat, and then I've been having a bit of rice, and I have been throwing in some root vegetables. I know the carnivore, they're going to put in the comments now, oh my God, oxalates, you're going to die, you're going to have a kidney stone. You know what I mean? I'm going to fall apart, ladies and gents. You know what I mean? Been having some potato. Yes, I had potato, pumpkin, rice, and I had some. I have my meat as well on my plate as well. Boom! Because of the fiber, again, it's slow to eat. I have to chew it. The fiber is keeping me satiated. So is the protein. I had no desire to have anything sweet. I had some banana in with that as well. I'm not saying people do that. That's actually still a lot of calories, right? But I'm just giving you an example of those foods high in volume, like vegetables, high volume, low calories on my plate, right? So it's a full meal. I look forward to eating it, right? I've got a little bit of rice here to get my carbs in, white rice. Oh my God, the carnivore space is going to hate me. And then I got my meat and boom, I'm satisfied, right? I had some banana and stuff. Good. Stayed in the deficit, no problem, right? So look, it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, and it's about really not bullshitting yourself. If you want to get lean, again, you want to look at the 5 foods. I'll add that to the end of this video if you haven't seen that one. You've probably seen it already. But I talked about the 5 foods, right? And I swear by this, right? Any form of lean meat, right? Beef, I would go for beef and steak so you can get most of the nutrients you need. Keep it extra lean. You can get 2 or 5% lean beef mince. Definitely recommend that most of the time if you're looking to get lean, because it's way less calories, right? And that's another tricky thing as well. Look, if you're looking to get lean, there's simple things that people overlook. Like, I'm going to have full fat beef mince. I'm going to add some olive oil, right, to that beef and rice on my plate, for example. And then boom, let's say they're having a meal, which is like 900 calories, right? Then boom, if I take out the olive oil, right? Maybe I squeeze some lemon for flavor or something, and I have lean beef mince, right, with the rice. That's taking me down to about what, 500 calories. Is literally like 400 calories less or something, right? And I'm not to say you should never have normal beef mince. I'm all for whole foods, but when it comes to losing weight, it's these simple decisions that people overlook, and the calories in those foods, right, are really high. Olive oil, full fat beef mince, they're good, right? On paper, there's nutrients in them, right? But when it comes to overall calories, these little decisions hold people back, right? So be aware of those things. So look, beef, eggs for me, chicken thighs, like I say, vegetables, right? For the purpose of getting lean, if you can, you don't get any gut issues, cook them properly, vegetables. And then obviously the other one was I forgot what the other one was now, but that's all right. So they're the kind of foods I would really aim for if I was looking to get shredded. And with clients as well, I'm always looking at, right, it's whatever you can adhere to. And the problem is, if you're eating granola, you're eating protein bars, you're eating peanut butter, most days, what you're doing is, number one, you're getting used purely to the flavor and the hedonistic value of food. You're getting too attached to that, right? If you're doing that every day, and you're going to eat more than what you would if you weren't addicted to that feeling, or if you weren't chasing the feeling from food, because that's what we're doing. Number two, you want high volume, ideally, right, on your plate. So that's why, like berries, I mentioned last time, vegetables can be a really good shout. Chasing protein, obviously meat, protein and fiber from real foods. It's very simple, but if you chase those 2 things, you keep your gut. You got to really keep an eye on digestion and gut, right? This is a never-ending, challenge for a lot of people, including myself, when it comes to gut health, digestion. If you're getting issues with your gut, that's going to hold you back in every area, right? Building muscle, losing fat, sleep, all those kind of things. So you've got to really pay attention. Like, there's so much variance from person to person, but literally protein, fiber, keep it simple, real foods, keep the foods I mentioned here to a minimum, and it's a lot harder to go wrong, right? Look, I put together for you a shred blueprint, which is going to help you get literally ripped, depending on what level you're at, either get ripped or lose a significant amount of weight and really tighten up your core as well. And essentially, you've got the tools here to get into the shape of your life. And I'm going to give it to you for free, right? This shred blueprint. Now, this has helped loads of people, by the way, already, this blueprint. All I want to do is drop a word, comment below with the word shred, right? And I'll get that straight over to you. And also, I'd like to wrap this up with a couple of little things I wanted to summarize with, right? Remember, it's not always about cutting foods out. Get yourself out of the mindset of, I can't have this, I can't have that. I am not stating these facts here, right? I'm stating this based on facts, right? UPF, make you overeat. All the people I've coached, my experience of my transformation. I'm not demonizing those foods. I don't want to come away from this going, okay, I can't eat those foods ever again. I've got to stay away from them. They're bad. No, right? If you can do those things in moderation, you can stay in a calorie deficit, right? You feel good. You don't feel deprived and you're winning. Fantastic. But you've got to minimize these foods. And if you store them in the house, most people are setting themselves up for failure. Place a barrier in the way, get all those foods out of the house that make you overeat, right? And it's much harder to lose them, right? So remember, satiety is everything. If you're eating too much UPF, right, ultra processed foods, and if more than 80% of your diet is UPF, sorry, more than 20% even of your diet is UPF, most people are going to have a real battle there, right, in terms of losing weight and keeping it off. If I'm looking to get shredded, like when I used to do bodybuilding comps and stuff like that, I'm eating, 95% or say 90% whole foods. 4 weeks out from the comp, then when it's the next level shreds, I'm going 100% real food. Right now, I'm 95% real food, right? Single ingredient foods primarily. And yeah, I mean, when you get to that place, it's kind of hard to mess it up, right? Hey, look, one more thing I wanted to say as well. Don't forget to comment shred beneath if you want to get the blueprint. But the other thing I wanted to say, check this video out now. I've shared this next video with you, right? Which you've got to check out, which is basically going to break down exactly what you need to do in terms of diets and the ultimate strategy with diets, the ultimate diet strategy for you to really get to that next level now with fat loss, with health, and with getting into the shape of your life. All right, ladies and gents, over and out.